of Elevated Success. Today we're going to go over how to quote commercial auto using the Acord forms. So there's two main forms you would need: the Acord 127, which is the business auto section, and the Acord 137, which is the commercial auto coverage. So to start, you're going to want to fill out the top right, the date, on the left, your agency name, effective date, and the named insured in this top section. Under driver information, there is enough room for 13 drivers. If you have more than 13 drivers, you will need to attach an Acord 136, which looks like this. It basically has, the date, agency name, insured, but you're going to have the same information I'm going to go over in the Acord 127. So you'll list the driver 1, 2, 3, 4 as you go down. But for driver 1, I only have one driver on this example. We have John Smith, so you'll need the driver number, name, date of birth, driver's license number, and the state they're licensed in. Some carriers will require you to have the sex of the driver, as well as the marital status and the years of experience. Most of them are going to be licensed at age 16, so you would just have to calculate that yourself. The rest of the information is usually not as important when sending in a quote. Most carriers will require you to pull the MVR, so that's important to do before sending it in. That you've pulled that and that you have that to send in with your Acord forms. Next is the general information. So you will have 17 questions to answer, and you'll just kind of go through them one by one. So the first question is if any vehicles are not solely owned and registered by the applicant, you would need to list the vehicle name. The vehicle number along with the name of the owner, the registered owner. Number 2, if 50% of employees use their vehicles for business purposes, their own personal vehicles, you will want to say yes. You don't need to give any explanation for that. Number 3, if there's a vehicle maintenance program in operation, you'll want to list that. Any vehicles that are leased to others. On number 4, any car, number 5, modified with special equipment. And this can include custom vans or pickups. Sometimes if they have like a handicap customization or, whatever that customization is, you would need to list the vehicle, the description, and the cost of that customization. If there are filings required, you would need to say yes, and you would also need to fill out and attach an Acord 194. If they're transporting hazardous material, you'll also need to list what material that is and say yes to this question, number 7. Next, on number 8, any hold harmless agreements. If so, you'll say yes. I would attach those when you send it in if you have that. Any vehicles solely used by family members, or any vehicles used by family members, if so identify, you would say yes. Which vehicle is being used by a family member, they would also need to be listed as a driver as well. If the applicant obtains MVRs, you will need to say yes on or no on that as well. Number 11, if they have specific driver recruiting methods, you would need to say yes and explain. Any drivers not covered by work comp, you would need to say yes if they aren't and explain. Number 13, any vehicles owned but not scheduled on the application, you would need to explain that as well. Any drivers with convictions or moving traffic violations, and you can read here, applicable only in Kansas. There are some specific requirements there, but for Florida and most other states, you can just attach the MVR if you've pulled it. Otherwise, you would want to explain here the information regarding those violations. Has the agent inspected vehicles? If you have, you'd want to explain that you have and that they're in good condition if they are. Are all vehicles included in this policy part of a fleet? If so, you'd say yes. Do you have an electronic monitoring device? Number 17. Some carriers will require you to have this in order to insure them. Most of the time you're going to say no unless they already have this on there, because it will give them a discount. If the carrier is going to require them, you're going to, when you fill it out as the application sending it in to bind, you would need to update it. But if they don't have it, click no. But if they do, you would want to explain what that is. And here's all the different options you can have, and what percentage of the vehicle. You would need to know how many vehicles are monitored using that electronic monitoring device. If there's an additional interest, that's where you would mark it here. You can attach an Acord 45 for additional names. Typically, this is usually for the lost payee if they're financed. You would want the vehicle number as well as the bank name and address. If you have a loan number, that's also very, very helpful. In the next section under remarks and Acord 101, if you have additional information that doesn't fit in here, you would want to fill out the Acord 101 to give that additional information. Last part of the application for the 127 before we get into the 137 is vehicle description. So if you have more than 4 vehicles, you will need to attach an Acord 129. It looks just like this. You're going to fill out the same exact information that we're about to go over, but you would need to fill that out as well. So vehicle description, under the first, you would have vehicles listed 1 through 4. This one I did vehicle 1. I used his vehicle 2020 Ford F-150 truck. So you're going to want the year, make, model, body type, VIN. The vehicle type, whether that's a special vehicle, private passenger, commercial, you would want to list that. The garaging address, and sometimes this garaging address is the driver's home. You want to make sure that you have this correct address, the state that the vehicle is licensed in, and the territory goes with the garaging address. So wherever that vehicle is garaged, you're going to use that specific territory. The gross vehicle weight, the seat capacity, this number that I don't have filled out. If you have a passenger van that is transporting people, you would want to list the seat capacity. So for vehicles that are, transporting people, you would want to have that number there, but most cases you don't need it. Radius, you would want that listed here, and then the cost new. Under use, you're going to want to click how they're using it, whether that's some will use for pleasure and commercial, some just commercial. Depending on what it is, you'll want to mark that here. And then next is the coverages. So for Florida, we have no fault, which I've added that. We also have medical payment coverage, and we have uninsured motorist coverage. You can see what I've clicked here. Comp and collision, you would want to mark that if they want that for this vehicle, along with rental coverage. And then how the deductible is over here. So how it's paid out, whether it's actual cash value or a stated amount, and that's really going to be determined on the carrier and what they offer. And then the type of cause of loss that they're insuring for comp, as well as the deductible. So the one under here, the first deductible, that's the comp deductible. The second one is for collision. That's all there is to this form. You do not need to collect signatures to send in for a quote, but once you are ready to bind, you will need to have your signature, the applicant's signature, and the date. When I send it in, to keep things clear, I like to always send it in with my producer name, producer license number, and national producer number. Next, let's go over to the Acord 137. This is state specific. So you'll want to, when you're pulling the Accords, pull the Acord 137 for, say, Florida, California, whatever that state is, so that you have the correct one based on the state you're writing it in. So you're going to start again with the date, your agency name, and the name to the insured. You can put the effective date on here as well. And then it's the coverage information. So for liability, here I've clicked any auto, which is symbol 1. We've learned all of these in the class, but there is a little guide down here at the bottom underneath them, so that can help you. So I have liability, any auto, combined single limits, which any auto gives the broadest coverage. Combined single limits of 1 million. If you're breaking them down, then you would have bodily injury per person, per occurrence, and then property damage. You would list that here instead of where I've listed mine. For personal injury protection, which we have in the state of Florida, and you may not have it in your state, but if you do, that would be number 5 on this little covered auto symbol sheet. You would also want to attach an Acord 62, which is going to give you the deductibles and how that coverage is to apply based on your insured. Again, if you want the extended or additional PIP, you would need to list those here as well. Medical payments, it's usually under owned autos only, so symbol 2. And then the amount each per person, you would put that next to it. Uninsured motorist is 6 based on the symbols down here. Attach an Acord 61. Again, it's going to say how you want it, whether you want it stacked or unstacked, depending on how you want it. So for Florida, we have an Acord 61 that would be attached with that. Hired and borrowed liability. For this, I clicked yes. You'd want the state. You either want the cost of the hire or an if any basis. So make sure you know what the cost is if you're going to list it. And then non-owned liability, which is for your employee vehicles, click yes or no. You'll need the state, and then you'll need the number of employees that maybe would need to be covered under that coverage. Over here, these all can be left blank. Under physical damage, you would want, if you want towing coverage, symbol 7, or you could do private owned passengers only. And then you're going to want to list the amount of that towing that you want covered. Comprehensive coverage, again, I've used symbol 7 and collision symbol 7. And here under the coverage deductibles, I've listed them as well, but they're also going to be on the Acord 127. And coverage, you can put it as primary. It most likely would never be secondary. Any additional information you need to put, you can put here and attach an Acord 101 if you need to have more room. Again, you would collect your signature, the applicant's signature, and the date when you're ready to bind, but you don't need that filled in to quote. You would also want to list your producer's name, license number, and national producer license number. Under the next 2 pages, this one is for the truckers section. Again, we've gone over most of all the coverages that you would have on they're exactly the same, other than the trailer interchange, and then motor carrier section as well. So if you needed those, you would use those for the quote. If you're just doing commercial auto, then you only need to fill this top form. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can find us at www.elevatedsuccessonline.com, or you can email me if you have any questions at info@elevatedsuccessonline.com. I appreciate you listening, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me.